Welcome to Planning Plus Software and our webinar today with the incomparable Mr. Ryan Taylor from Body Shop Booster. Ryan's based all the way over there in Alberta, Canada, in Banff, and he's just told me that they've still got snow over there. So welcome, Ryan.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'll package some of that snow up and send it your way. How's that sound?
Yeah, well, we're heading down our autumn road to winter, and I think over here at the moment, everyone's been having their spring cleans at the wrong time of the year.
There you go.
We've been locked away, cleaning things out. And, yeah, changed world. How's things for you?
Man, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this coronavirus overnight, completely changed our reality in U.S., Canada. I mean, you guys too, by the sounds of it. So it's different. Yeah.
Now, for those of you that might not know Ryan is not normally at home, and he's had to reintroduce himself to his family.
Yeah, I'm not sure. They're kind of wondering who this guy is that's hanging out in the house all the time now. So
he's normally on a plane somewhere, but we all know what that's like at the moment. We're not flying anywhere. So it's good to see that we're all reconnecting with our family. It's been an interesting time. I've been trying to keep myself busy here in the office, but I've got my bike riding and a few other things to do. You're not riding bikes out there in the snow.
Not at present. Yeah, they shut all the ski hills down and everything. So we're just hanging out, just throwing in some working hours here, I guess. So it's good. Yeah.
Well, welcome everyone. And I'm going to hand over to Ryan shortly. And Ryan's going to run us through just some of the things that have happened around this coronavirus and how the American and Canadian market's been responding to it. And everyone's got a Q&A section that they can actually pop a question into. So at any time, if you feel like popping a question in, please feel free to do so. And we'll see how the questions go, whether or not I interrupt Ryan and just say, hey, Ryan, we've got a couple of questions, or we run through to the end of his presentation. I'm really thankful to have Ryan on board. He's a wealth of knowledge and he's done some amazing things over there. He's also I'll let Ryan tell his own story, but he works with OEMs as well, helping them with their marketing, and works with a lot of body shops in a few different countries now. And it's great to have him as part of it. We've had a friendship now for the last couple of years through our international travels and workshops and seminars, etc. So I'm going to hand over to Ryan. And as I said, everyone, please feel free to pop your questions in or shoot a chat message. And let's hear from the Ryan Taylor story and what he's got to share with us today.
Sounds great. Well, first of all, thank you very much, Gavin, for putting this together, for having me on here. I'm very excited. You guys are near and dear to my heart over there. And just for those of you who know Gavin, he's an amazing gentleman. And so I feel honored to be on this little webinar with you. And but maybe just as a high level overview, I'll give you guys a little background. For myself, I spent 19 years in the collision industry. I grew my shops we grew to 8 stores, which I sold in 2014. But one of the things that was a defining moment in my life, kind of a scary one actually, happened to me July 22nd, 2010. And just to give you an idea, for us, the month of July was always a busy month. My shops were full. All 8 stores were crammed to the brim. We also had a large hail team, which you guys know a lot about hail, over there in Australia, of course. So we had a large hail team. We were fixing at that time close to 200 vehicles a day between our shops and our hail division. So life, I thought, was pretty good. We were cranking through the work, and I get this phone call from my largest insurance DRP, is what we call them over here, but largest insurance customer calls me. And this is a guy that I'd been doing business with for, 10 years. And his name was Serge. And so Serge calls me, and I pick up the phone thinking it was going to be my buddy calling me. And he says to me, Ryan, you have a major beeping problem. And I PG'd it. I just kept that, child rated so I didn't hurt anybody's feelings there. But he was swearing at me. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on? And he's like, well, Ryan, you guys just fixed Sharon Abernathy's car. She was going through an intersection. She slammed on the brakes to avoid getting in an accident. And her 11-year-old child flew through the front windshield because you didn't install the passenger seatbelt properly. That's what he told me. And so I'm freaking out. I get this ringing in my head, and he's saying some other things, and I was hardly coherent because I was trying to understand what he was saying. And he says this, he says, fix this now. And then he slams down the phone. So I'm sitting there in my office holding a dead phone, and I'm just like, what do you do? Like, where do you even begin? And I had no idea who Sharon Abernathy was. I mean, you know, we're fixing 200 vehicles a day at this point. I'm like, who is this lady? I don't know. So I get a hold of our call center, because we had a call center running all of our shops at this time. And I'm like, girls, can you tell me who Sharon Abernathy is? Give me her information. So they get me Sharon's information. And I go ahead and I call her. And of course, she's hysterical, which you can imagine. And I'm like, Sharon, I just heard from Serge at the insurance company. What do we need to do? Do we need a fire truck, an ambulance? Like, tell me, what do we need? And she's like, just get down to my house. Get down here now. And so I'm like, okay, I'm on my way. I'm on my way. And so I start driving, and I had about a 15-minute drive. And the whole time I'm thinking, this is my worst nightmare here. My technicians had installed the passenger seatbelt wrong. I'm the one who's responsible here. You know, and I'm having these horrible feelings. But it didn't take long, Gavin, before I started thinking about these things selfishly. And I started thinking to myself, hey, what's going to happen to this business? Everything that I built up over the last, you know, I guess at that time it was about 15, 16 years. I'm like, man, everything I've built up is gone up in smoke. And I imagine some of you guys are even feeling that's kind of what this coronavirus is doing, is it's a massive adjustment. And so I started thinking selfishly, like, what is going to happen to me? What's going to happen to Ryan? Right. And I just started having pictures in my head of what you're seeing here, where I'm in jail with Billy Bob McLovin or something. Right. I'm like, oh man, like, what's my future hold? And you know, so anyway, I start driving down the street that she lives on. And I don't see any fire trucks. I don't see any ambulances. And I'm thinking to myself, is this even the right street? So I get to the address and I pull up, and there's the car parked in the driveway. And it was facing out. And I'm like, wait a minute, I don't even see a broken windshield. So could this be right? And so I kind of hop out of the truck, and sure enough, the front door flies open, and this lady comes storming out, and she's mad. I mean, she looks just angry. And I'm like, oh, this must be the right address. And so I'm like, hey, I'm Ryan. She's like, yeah, get over here and look at that passenger seatbelt. That's what she said to me. So I go over and I look at the passenger seatbelt, and here's what was wrong with it. Okay. It was a twist in the belt itself. It wasn't that it wasn't installed properly. There was no broken windshield. There was no blood, guts, and gore like I'd expected. And I'm thinking to myself, what is going on? Gavin, I'd never been so glad and then also mad at the same time. I didn't know how to feel. I'm like, what is going on here? And so I'm fiddling with this seatbelt, and I fix it with my fingers, with my hands. And it was installed properly. It just had a twist. And I'm sitting there going, what? So I decided to ask her. I said, you know what, Sharon, you're going to have to explain something to me. You got to tell me what's really going on here, because I'm confused. And I said, because you got me down here, so tell me what's going on. And she says, well, to start with, my insurance company demanded that I come to see you guys. And she says, dealing with your business, well, it was super inconvenient. Your people didn't care about me. When I got there, they asked me for my claim information, my insurance information, not even my name. And the communication was terrible. It was awful. I felt like I was in a meat packing plant. You just wanted me processed and gone. That was her words. And then she said this. She says, you guys will never touch my car again, and I'll be switching insurance companies. And you know what I did at that point, Gavin? Here's what I thought in my head. I was like, see ya. I don't care. You're crazy, right? That's what I thought. But mind you, that was what was coming to me. I'm like, we got us a crazy here. But the reality is, right, even though I walked away politely and I couldn't wait to call Serge and tell him that he had kind of a crazy customer on his hands, I started thinking about it. And I'm like, wait a minute. What if 5%, 10%, 50% of my customers feel the same way Sharon Abernathy does, but they're just not saying anything? And that's when we started to shift our focus as a company. We started to shift our focus towards the customer. We were really dependent on our insurance partners for really our work. And I think that's a common thing in Australia too. And so we started saying, what if we looked at our customers and made the focus there? And that really started to benefit us. And the reason I bring this up is because ever since COVID-19 hit, it was like a major change in behaviors. And we've seen this in America, and I'm sure Canada and Australia, you're seeing this, where the customer demands from the OEMs level, the insurance companies, the customers, they have new demands. They're not wanting to come to the shops anymore. They're not wanting to go down the normal buying behaviors and patterns. And so this kind of creates a really unique opportunity for us at the body shop level. Now, the first thing I'm getting asked from really shops all over the globe right now is whoa, claims are down. How do I boost sales? What's the first thing I should do? So here's my advice that I think would help everybody really in the body shop world. Number one, if you haven't already done this, reach out to unclosed estimates. If you've been writing estimates, if you've been dealing with customers that have created a relationship with you, go back 6 months, a year, whatever you can do. Go and talk to those unclosed estimate files, those people who haven't actually booked in for repairs, and get them moving forward. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. The second thing is your past customer base is one of your most valuable assets. The reason I tell you this is it is 70 times more expensive to go out in the market and acquire a new customer who's never had an experience with you. Go out and acquire a new customer than it is to just re-engage a past one. So there's some behavioral science. A big piece of my background is one of my partners was a behavioral scientist. And what he did is he taught us a lot of human triggers. And you guys have seen this. I'm sure you've seen this in Australia where people are hoarding toilet paper, right? They went out and there's the pandemic and I'm going to hoard all this toilet paper. Well, people are holding on to their money like they're holding on to toilet paper. And they're holding back their repairs right now because that's basically money. So what you can do to get your unclosed estimates and your past customers moving in your direction right now is you can use the same trigger that causes them to hoard toilet paper, which is scarcity and urgency. Scarcity and urgency are two human triggers that are incredibly powerful. You've seen it with toilet paper. I'm sure people are fighting over it out there, right, Gavin? So
yeah, we've had plenty of fights. Been plenty
right?
of fights over
Absolutely.
here on toilet paper.
We're not classy in Canada either. I mean, that's happening here as well. You know, who thought we'd to fight over toilet paper? But anyway, so but what you can do is call your customers and call your past customers and unclosed estimates and say to them, look, you know what we see is manufacturing plants have shut down. We're expecting an interruption in shipping. And so my suggestion is we're afraid that the parts for your vehicle may not be very readily available. And more importantly, we think they might go up in price. So maybe we should go ahead and get you booked in now. Right? So we're using scarcity and urgency, get you booked in now so we can help you take advantage of this. Find other things that you can help your customers with. What we're suggesting is in the North American markets, we're telling them, look, find ways to help the customer finance the deductible. If they're trying to pay for something and they have a big deductible, help finance it, put it on their credit card, make payments up. I'm not sure what the laws over there in Australia allow for, but try and find ways to do that. In America and Canada, the insurance companies allow us to give what's called an appearance allowance, which is if there's a scrape on the headlight, we can deduct that, polish the headlight, make it look better. That's an appearance allowance, and that would be deducted off of the customer's deductible. So something to think about there. Those are a couple things that may be advantageous to you. One of the things that I'm getting a lot of questions about right now is, should I be doing marketing, right? And when is the best time to market? Here's my advice on marketing. And I give this to little mom and pop shops. And I give this I'm the marketing coach for Toyota. So $268 billion a year. And this is my advice, whether it's just track your customers' involvement, right? Track your estimate traffic. And if you're seeing it decline, traditionally, and this is a mistake I see small organizations and big organizations make, okay? So the mistake is often this. When estimate traffic declines, they start doing traditional marketing, TV, radio, print, social media, right? And they get louder. As that declines, they get louder trying to bring more work in. That's actually a mistake because as the market drops right now, there just isn't claims volume. So you're basically marketing to people who don't have damage. And if I was to say to you, Gavin, did you wake up this morning and start researching flood restoration companies? You'd probably say no, right? Because you don't have a need. And if people don't have a need, marketing to them isn't really effective. So it's kind of like going on an expensive fishing trip and there's empty waters and you're spending all this money to get out there. So rather than doing traditional marketing at a time like this, what I recommend doing is backing off on traditional marketing and going into what I call relationship marketing. And this is where you're going to your insurance companies, your dealerships, other businesses, fleet companies, and you're building relationships where they can start sending you a trickle of work right now. And more importantly, when the volume picks up, they can really flood your shop quickly. Okay. So that's my suggestion. We'll talk more about that. Then wait till the market recovers to do your traditional marketing and advertise when there's lots of damaged vehicles out there. That's how you can hook into them with traditional marketing. So the first thing we need to look at is, how do you capture more leads? What does that look like? And so I often talk about capturing in marketing as bait. Okay, there's bait. These are the things that get the fish to swim closer to your boat. And so work with your influencers. Here's what I mean. In your marketplace, if you think of your marketplace as a lake, here's what you need to know. 57% of vehicles have no damage. And it's really difficult to market to those people because they don't need your service. However, what's really interesting is 43% of your market does have damage. And that's going to consist of small, medium, and large. And sure, there's going to be total losses and rust and restoration and stuff that doesn't apply to you. But here's what you need to know. When those damaged vehicles start moving towards you, they flow into, in this analogy, I call it repair river. Okay. And as they flow out of the damage, out of the lake, they flow downstream and they hit what I call an island of influencers. Okay. So these are a chain of islands. And if you think of these influencers, they're going to be things like this. We're going to say an insurance company would be an influencer, right? So they call their insurance company. The insurance company says, hey, why don't you look at one of these 3 shops? Dealerships can be a great influencer. A prior experience. Remember we talked about past customers? Very powerful. Okay. Other businesses can refer you, family and friends, OEMs, right? And this is why I'm working with so many OEMs. I just did a big conference for Nissan today. And the OEMs are becoming more and more powerful. And as telematics evolve, you'll see them become more powerful. Fleet companies, they are also very powerful. And we'll talk about those. So let's just take a look at, how do you build relationship? What do you do for relationship marketing? Well, right now you're slow, and the chances are so are your dealerships. So what a great time to start cultivating and building relationships. At the dealership level, here's the math. 42% in America and Canada, I got the data from here, and I'm sure it's very similar in Australia. 42% of the vehicles that go through a service drive, getting the oil changes and things like that, 42% of them have small to medium size damage, which means that there's a boatload of opportunity there to tap into. The problem is, when a service writer makes a verbal recommendation and they say, hey, you should go and see Gavin's Body Shop, only 14% of those people will actually show up at Gavin's shop. So one of the things that we did at Body Shop Booster is we developed some technology that they can put up right on the cell phone or the tablet of the service writer. And within 60 seconds, they can document the damage, the customer's info. It will track the service writer and the dealership and pump that lead right into your shop. So all we're doing is creating relationship and streamlining the ability for them to push work into your shops. Does that make sense? Okay. So find ways to work with your influencers. This is a really cool piece of equipment that's coming to Australia as well. And this is Hunter Engineering. So the car drives through this quick check drive machine, and it will help identify body damage. And within just a few seconds, they can just push it right into the body shop, right into our system, right into Body Shop Booster, and it will actually come right in, and you'll be able to see all the customer's information. So a really simple way, again, to get that work moving from the dealership into your business. One of the things that I'm telling shops to do is, look, go and talk to your dealerships about lot reconditioning. If they're not able to sell cars, or they're slow, or whatever the case is, go over there and keep your employees busy by doing some lot damage and building those relationships. Talk about fleet companies. Another upstream influencer is your fleet companies. And so these guys right now, look at the most expensive thing, and I'm sure it's the same in Australia as it is in North America. The most expensive thing for fleets traditionally is downtime. If they've got to pull a vehicle out of service to have it fixed, that's expensive. Well, right now, a lot of fleets have been forced. And I was talking to a shop in California just 3 days ago. And I said, hey, go and talk to what is today? Your Tuesday. So this would have been on Friday for me. But I talked to him. I said, hey, go and talk to your fleets this morning. Go and see what you can do to tell them, look, at your vehicles are down. They're forced to be parked. Why don't we fix the damage on them while they're parked? So that way, when you get turned back on, you're good to go. So he went and talked to a solar panel company that has been basically shut down, and their fleet's sitting there. And they gave him 6 vehicles that same day. They're like, here's 6 vehicles. Go fix them. We got more when you're done. Right? So find ways to get out there and shake the bushes and get a relationship with these guys. One of the things I always like to tell this story is, COVID-19 a problem or an opportunity? And I'm going to talk to you about insurance companies for a second. See, one of the things that we know, and this story was shared with me a couple of years ago, and Americans decided that they were going to go over to Africa. A shoe company was going to go over to Africa and try and open up a new market. So they sent over 2 salespeople. And the first guy, he lands early in the morning. He lands in Africa, gets off the plane and looks around, and he sees nobody's wearing shoes. So he says, goes over to the payphone. This is back in the payphone days. Picks up the payphone and says, "Boss, I'm coming home. Nobody even wears shoes over here. This is dumb." So he gets on the plane, flies off. Now later that day, the second sales guy lands, gets off the plane, looks around and says, "Oh, nobody's wearing shoes." So he kind of trots over to the phone, picks it up, calls his boss and says, "Boss, send everybody we have. Nobody's even wearing shoes here. This is the best market I've ever seen." And he's all fired up and excited. The reason I share this story with you is a lot of us right now are looking at this as a major problem, the COVID-19, but there is a silver lining. There is going to be an abundance of opportunity. And I want you to look at this bucket as claims volume. So traditionally in America and Canada, and I'm sure Australia would be the same, when that claims bucket gets dumped out, okay, and it's empty, when it starts to fill back up again, and it's not a matter of if, it's when, okay? So when the country starts to return to normal, usually the first people who get the claims volume are at the bottom of the bucket. It starts filling up with water. So the consolidators, the large MSOs, and then as that water level continues to rise, the small MSOs, your large independents, your mom and pop shops, the small independents are usually the last one to get the claims volume. But that's all been tossed out. See, right now is a massive opportunity in my eyes where a lot of these insurance companies have been reaching out. We've had meetings with over 9 insurance companies and a bunch of OEMs here in Canada and the US where they're going, "Hey, we need shops that can deal with customers in really a touch-free environment." So my encouragement to you today is start thinking about how you can go to your insurers and say, "Hey, we have a touch-free environment from the minute the assignment's out to if we need to make contact with that customer, we can do things virtually now. We can use photo estimating, which is one of our core products of Body Shop Booster. We can triage and evaluate the damage. We can do everything from dealing with that customer virtually to bringing them to the shop and having a touchless rental car. Work with your rental car companies. They're already got this mostly figured out where they can stage cars or help you deliver cars, but basically create a touchless environment right through to helping that customer pay their deductible, right? Whether you take the payment by phone or you use a system like ours for texting and emailing and collecting payment. And then have a way for that customer to pick up the vehicle in a touch-free environment. So now you have their attention. I've got a COVID-19 touchless repair system or digital repair system. So start using this as your opportunity to get FaceTime with an insurance carrier that maybe you wouldn't normally get. And here's the challenge. And if you're on this call and you're watching this and you're a big operator, you're going to be the most challenged because the small guys have the ability to pivot into this quickly. Okay. The big guys, right? And we've got some customers out there that are 1,000+ stores strong in America. They're having a tricky time turning the battleship. It's like turning a battleship with a teaspoon, right? So the smaller you are, the faster you can pivot, and that's your advantage. So use it, right? So just start working on something like that. One of the things that we're getting a lot of questions about is how do I deal with customers? How do I triage or evaluate the damage? And a lot of people are like, should I be building an estimate tool, a photo estimating tool? And this is a hot button. And so I'll share this with you. We started developing Body Shop Booster back in 2007. And what I started doing is I said, all right, we're going to start by asking questions. When a customer calls, our receptionist, our CSR, is going to ask questions. And is the vehicle drivable and things like that. The problem we ran into really quickly, Gavin, is unfortunately the customers weren't great at giving us that advice. We'd say, is a vehicle drivable? And they say, oh no. So we tow it into the shop and it was a key scratch. And we're like, wait a minute, you said it wasn't drivable. Oh no, it's not. My neighbors are going to see me. I can't drive it like that, and things like, so we're like, okay, this isn't working. So then we're like, hey, why don't you just email us or use a web submission portal on our website where you can just upload photos, right? But here's what we got. We got people going in 3-4 inches away and taking pictures. And we're like, what is that? Is that a peach or something? Like, is that a
Yeah.
fruit? Is it a tropical fruit? Like, what are we dealing with here? And so it really wasn't working. And so we're like, okay, we need something better. So that's when we actually sat down and put together what's called guided discovery. So this is when we have an estimate tool that we can text to the customer, email to the customer, then get it from our website. But basically, it has your logo and branding on it, and it's white labeled for you guys. And what it will do is bring the customer through an experience. So let's say they choose an SUV. The very next thing they see is tap on the damaged panels, right? Damaged areas. So if they tap on the right rear door, now they're going to be given the right rear door of an SUV with damage on it. But notice something. Notice how we're holding the phone, depicting the height, the distance, the angle. So what we found is this improved our photo quality by about 70%. It's still not perfect. We're dealing with humans here, but it improved our photo quality exponentially. And that allowed us to give them really good advice, right? So the way that a customer can get this is really, really powerful. So it can live on your website, so they can self-serve 24 hours a day. And that's what we're finding is customers have an accident at 8 o'clock at night. They don't want to wait till 8 o'clock in the morning to deal with you guys. They want action now. And so the other thing we have is the ability for your people at the office, and we even now artificial intelligence, if they call at 10 o'clock at night, over the phone, it can text them the estimate tool in just a matter of seconds. So they get the text message, they click on it, and it brings them into a guided discovery experience. Very, very powerful. On the shop's end, once they get the photos back, they can quickly see all the information on the customer, evaluate the photos, and they're high resolution images that they can look at under like X-ray filters, so you can see cracks in taillights, things like that. So really why I bring all of this up is because this is really a huge driving factor. In North America, we've like tripled in size in the last 2 weeks because everybody overnight realized that this is what customers want. But I have some cautionary tales for you. What you need to start thinking about is using this kind of technology as the ability to triage or effectively parse your work. And so what I'm talking about is think about things like, how does this make my shop more effective and more efficient for everybody? So I always talk about elimination, things like eliminate people who just are wanting to get cash from the insurance company. We can eliminate those people virtually in about 1/10 of the time as if they were to walk into your body shop. Things like total losses. If you're not in the business of total losses and it's not a profit center, you can quickly identify that it's a total loss and get rid of it and send it back to the insurance company. That's what we do in North America. Things like rust, restoration, tire kickers. We don't want those people clogging up the front end of our shop, so you can break up with these people virtually, and that makes it really, really quick. So we find that right away you can get rid of about 15 to 20% of your daily distractions and just focus on the profitable work. So where the next piece comes in, and I know Australia works different than North America here, but you can quickly evaluate the damage and we do it in 3 classes, small, medium, and large, really. But about 44% of the volume that we see, and we just had over 69 million in the last year that we ran through our system. And so what we're looking at is small damage like that. A lot of times you can do a virtual estimate where you can get really accurate. The other part, though, when you get into the bigger damage, the type 2s, so a little bigger damage or the heavier hits like what you're seeing here, it makes it really easy to advise that customer and say, hey, you know what? Looking at the pictures of your Jaguar, Mrs. Jones, we're going to go ahead and actually bring that in the shop where we'll disassemble it, finalize the estimate for your insurance company. But it allows you to advise that customer as if you're sitting in the driveway or standing in the driveway beside them. And that's really, really powerful. And that's kind of like getting the fishing hook into the customer's, mouth and hauling them into the shop. So those are some of my recommendations there. So one of the things I would say is start considering, should I be offering photo estimating? And is this a tool that works for me? The other thing when we're talking about capturing more work is work on your passive traffic. Things like website visitors, make sure that they can self-service. Phone calls, can you take phone calls 24/7? What about texting? Customers love texting now. Email, social media, your Google presence, work on that. If you've got print ads, make sure that they channel that customer into your shop seamlessly. And there's about 37 other channels that will feed in digitally into your shop. And that's really what we designed Body Shop Booster, is to be your communication and marketing platform. So all of those things funnel into one easy to manage system. Because the problem for many, many shops is that they're trying to manage all these leads from different sources, from insurance companies and from, fleet companies. And over here, I have this website and I have that website and I have got phone calls and emails and text messages. So we thought, wouldn't it be great if there's just one system that basically housed all your customers and made it really easy to communicate. And that leads me to the next thing. See, as this customer flows downstream and they've hit the first chain of islands, so let's say it's an insurance company, and the insurance company says, hey, go and look at one of these 3 shops. Well, now they're going to go into what I call the secondary influencers. And really the job of the secondary influencers, these islands, are to validate what the primary influencer has said. So if an insurance company says, go and look at 3 shops, and one of those is Gavin's, I'm going to go online, aren't I? I'm going to look at his website. I'm going to maybe call him. This is what we call first contact, or text him, or email him, or look at some of the things he's doing on Google or his marketing efforts. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to validate that, yeah, that's a shop that I'd like to deal with. Okay. And so you need to make sure that you've got your lines of communication. And this is what I call the hook, right? This is the hook. I've talked about the bait. So we've got the fish swimming, but now when they're about to take a bite, you've got to have a hook, and that is communication. That's communication. And the rule of the jungle is the faster you communicate, the higher your capture rate, the higher your likelihood of grabbing that customer. So let's take a quick look at that. One of the pieces of technology that we've really been working hard on the last couple of years, and we just released this just recently, is what is called AI cubed. So this is actual intelligence supported by automated intelligence and artificial intelligence. And so this is how you can deal with your customers hyper intelligently. So what I'm talking about is really the main channels of communication are things like your phone calls. So now one of the challenges shops have is we only work usually 8-9 hours a day. And what happens to customers after hours? Are they just stuck there, right? So this AI allows you to, if your CSR is busy during the day, let's say the phone rings 4 times, AI is like Alexa or Siri, okay? And it will pick up the phone and have a conversation with that customer. And the customer's like, hey, I need to get an estimate. No problem. Can I text you our photo estimate tool, or do you want me to schedule you in for a shop appointment? So it's got enough intelligence that it can answer about 90% of the customer's questions. It can text with them as well, okay? So it can have the same conversations via text. Here's my warning. AI is super intelligent, but it is never, in my purview, it is never as good as a friendly, empathetic, knowledgeable person. So I always like to have your people try and answer the phone or deal with that customer. But if they're busy, it is a lot better than going into a voicemail or being delayed for hours before they get dealt with. So try and check these things out because they're very, very powerful. The customer might be reaching out via email or website contact, or maybe they want to book an appointment online. Do you have the ability to let that customer self-schedule an estimate appointment at the shop? If you don't, that's something that I would encourage you to look at. That's one of the pieces of our platform that we have for you. Photo estimates. The customer can self-serve, take photos, and what's happening is they're engaging. They're engaging with you, okay? And when they engage, it's like sinking that fishing hook into them. The faster you connect with your customer, the higher the chance of getting that repair. So now, as we come downstream, they're looking at multiple shops. They usually will engage in some capacity, whether it's communication, maybe it's getting an estimate, maybe it's just dealing with the people at the shop. Ultimately, they're going to go into a small holding pattern, and then they're going to make their buying decision. They're going to choose a shop. And once they've chosen a shop, it's over, okay? Buying, marketing, everything is over. They're locked into that shop. So what can we do? And this is something that I've just on a meeting with, like I said, with Nissan, and they asked me the question, what is the biggest challenge for shops in the future? And it's going to come down to capturing that actual job. Okay, that's going to be the big thing. And I often ask this question, when a customer is trying to make a buying decision and really having the ability to deal with customers virtually through photos, especially in COVID-19, is not a nicety anymore. It's become a necessity. And we've seen everybody in North America move to this overnight. That's why we've been so busy onboarding. Just pretty much every shop in North America has come to us saying, wow, we got to get going. And so what we're doing is we're trying to help them, because that's not the battleground. Looking at photos is not the battleground. The battleground is actually convincing that customer that Gavin shop is the right shop. See, a lot of us, we want that customer to come to our shop, see the lobby, see Gavin, get to meet him so he can hand him a coffee and a donut and take their keys, right? But now that customer, if you're in the position where you're trying to quote that customer and maybe provide them with an estimate, right? That customer is trying to make a buying decision. And if you're trying to use price, which we're seeing become a new factor, right? A lot of times the insurance company is going to pay this bill, but we're trying to coax that customer into the shop. So what you need to create is every shop to a customer looks the same virtually. They all fix bent metal and they all paint cars. So why would I choose your shop? Right? You need to create what I call a measurable difference. If you're going to buy the barbecue sauce, I would want you to pay more for my barbecue sauce, but I need to explain why this is the right choice. It's all natural. It's organic, made with real tomatoes. No kangaroos were hurt in the manufacturing of this product or whatever. You need to have a compelling reason to choose your business. And so that's what we're calling it, is create a measurable difference. So this comes down to, we've talked about the bait, we've talked about the hook. Now you need to get them in the net, which is basically pulling them in the boat, okay? So one of the things that we talk about is customers are sitting at home now evaluating your shops and saying, why should I choose Gavin, or why should I choose this shop? And so you want to use this behavioral science. See, people are more afraid of making the wrong decision than they are of spending money. And so you can use that little human psyche thing to our advantage. I mean, we've all done it. We've all gone out, bought the piece of junk and regretted it, right? And then had to come back and buy the right thing. I just did it the other day with a dishwasher that flooded the house, one of our rental houses, right? And I'm like, oh, now I got to buy the right dishwasher. So we've all done this. And so inherently people know that they should never be buying on price. So one of the things that I always recommend is never sell on price. Never give that customer an estimate remotely by email that can't be tracked, or you can't influence that buying behavior. So one of the systems that's available to you through Body Shop Booster is a system called Sell My Estimate, which is nothing more than you can drag in like a PDF of your estimate, or if you don't want to do an estimate, you drag in your workflow, a PDF of your workflow, and that customer will get a text message or an email basically that will, and I'll show you, here it is, that will basically guide them through why they should choose your shop. So the first thing they would click on is the link, and now it brings them into an experience. So you can see the video there where it's talking about why your shop is the right shop to fix a BMW. Incidentally, I own a BMW. So that's going to influence me that, wow, Gavin's shop is the right shop for me. Okay. Again, people are trying to make this decision virtually. So from there, we bring them into the rest of the experience. So this is an example. And we've built all these videos for you guys. So every manufacturer out there, we've built a video that influences them that you're the right shop to fix it. So the customer can then go in, look at their estimate or look at the workflow. And what happens is the system watches them. So it'll say, oh, look at that. Gavin is now looking at his estimate. And it will prompt the estimator or the person at the office to say, okay, pick up the phone and call Gavin. Because when that customer is trying to make a buying decision, the best time to follow up, the best time to reach out to them is right when they're in the throes of making that buying decision. Makes sense, right? And so here's some of the things that we track, right? So when the estimate's opened, if it's not opened, and here's what's amazing, 24% of the time, 23 to 24% of the time, estimates, if they're emailed in North America, will go to that person's spam folder. And so that customer doesn't even know that they got it. So sometimes your communication with that customer might be going to their spam folder. If they share their estimate with a competitor, or if they're ready to book the repairs or sign a repair authorization, this system can handle all of those things for you. And I know your market works a little different, but think about how that might play well into your position, where remotely they could actually come in here, and if you need them to sign a repair authorization or an insurance form, because again, we're trying to deal with that customer virtually. And if that plays a role right now with working with your insurance companies, where you can deal with that customer, maybe it's their rental car contract, they can sign it virtually, right? Find ways to deal with that customer in a digital format. Finally, the last thing I want to share with you is follow-up. Follow-up is going to be the key. And 91% of shops in North America tell me they don't do any follow-up. 7% say they attempt it, sort of, and only 2% do a really good job. So if you've got unclosed estimates, if you've got files that haven't got there, follow-up will be the key metric. One of the things inside of our program that we have for you guys is automated things, automated follow-up. So we have a really cool piece of technology that drops what's called a ringless voicemail on the person's phone. So it'll literally leave a voicemail saying, hey, it's Gavin over here at the body shop, just following up on the estimate we did for you, or just following up to see how things are going. If you're ready to go ahead and schedule the repairs, sorry I missed you, but give us a shout back. We'd be happy to help you out. And so that kind of technology can be completely automated, and you don't have to worry about doing it manually. And that becomes really, really powerful, doesn't it? I didn't know how powerful this was until I started missing calls from my staff. And I'm like, man, I'm missing all my staff keeps calling me and I'm missing them. And here I find out they're using this system against me because they didn't want to call and have a big long chat. So they're like, I'll just drop a voicemail on his phone without it ringing. So start using some of this technology, texting, emails, right? Doing your follow-up that way can be really, really powerful. Okay. Here's a case study from a shop in Missouri, USA. They do about 1.44 million in estimates every single month between their 2 stores. They had a 60% capture rate on those estimates, and they were heavily driven by insurance companies. Now that's 835 grand a month. Now all they did was focus on doing follow-up. And by doing follow-up, oops, I pressed the wrong button. By doing follow-up, they increased their capture rate by 5%. That's $72,000 a month, guys. Just making a small increase to your capture rate is powerful. And then what they did is using automation, they went and got it from 5% to 11% increase, which is $158,000 a month. So I ask you, if your shop could increase your capture rate by 5%, 10%, would it be worth finding ways to do follow-up, to automate your contact, right? Those are some of the things that I encourage you to start thinking about. Here's something a little bit ugly, but we need to talk about it. Cutting expenses. Okay. Right now, many shops are like, hey, you know what? I don't know how long this is going to go. I may need to cut expenses. So one of the things that we're helping a lot of shops do right now is finding ways to automate things that are taking manual process. And look, a lot of staff have to be home with their kids. They're home sick with whatever it might be. They need to be working from home. So find ways to automate things that you are doing manually. So automate your influencers, your insurance partners, your dealerships, your fleet companies, OEMs, customers' photos, find ways to automate all of these different things. What I talk about is everything you see on this list are highly repetitive tasks that can be automated from answering your phones. You can use artificial intelligence, text messages, scheduling, allowing customers to self-schedule from your website, in process. So process, I'm not sure how they say it in Australia, but anyway, everything from repair scheduling, Gavin's got an amazing system for keeping that customer updated. All these kind of things are really powerful tools that you can utilize to automate tasks that are being done manually. One of the things that these dark blue ones here are once they leave, how are you staying in communication? Because we know a happy customer is one that's going to refer you and repeat. And that's the strongest growth thing out there for you. So one of the things you'll see is an automated thank you voicemail. And this goes so far, guys. See, if that customer leaves and 24 hours later, the owner of the business calls them personally and says, hey, sorry I missed you, but this is Gavin. I just wanted to call and personally thank you for bringing your vehicle in. And I wanted to check up and make sure that everything looks amazing. I'm sorry I missed you. If you need anything at any time, we're always here. The purpose of my call is just to thank you, right? And the customer goes, wow, that's amazing. And that sets up what we call the cascade effect. The cascade effect is when you send them a text message the next day saying, hey, would you mind giving us some feedback? And it gives them a link straight into Google or Yelp or Facebook or whatever you're using in Australia, where they can give you an online review. It's going to make them and predispose them to give you a higher online review. The reason I brought that up is the OEMs are moving to online reviews to judge you guys for the future. So start thinking about what tasks am I doing manually that I can automate, and that will be very, very powerful. So I know we went through an absolute ton of stuff. So let me just recap this for you. So my secret number one, get to your active and your passive leads right now. Start getting those to come and use scarcity, use urgency. Secret number two, set the hook, okay? Get that communication figured out so you can communicate and connect with your customers 24/7 by phone, text, email, photo estimates, web chat, booking appointment features, whatever that looks like. Set those things up now while you have time, and this is going to hook the customer so that you can get them for secret number three, get them in the net. Influence the customers to choose your shop. Make it simple, make it easy. Have those things that you can do follow up with your customers, and that's going to really help you exponentially. So Gavin, I get to this point and I know I've been accused of talking really, really fast. And a lot of people are feeling a lot like this little guy on the screen right now where it's like, oh, what's this little hose? Oh, it's a lot of information, right? And so I get to this stage and, one of the things that I always try to do is how can we help these shops? So we put together a quick little offer to help shops. I know this was to be an advice kind of a webinar. I wanted to ask permission if it's okay to share, kind of a quick way to get started with this stuff if they're interested.
Yeah, well, let's throw it out to the audience and just open up with any questions, everyone, please, because we really want some interaction here, get some questions happening, and then we'll run through what we've put together for you that can help. And question from me to you there, Ryan, on this is that with our body shops here in the country, the claim is made with the insurance company, and then the insurance company recommends that we've got some certain repairers on our repairer list for you, and then the customer, the policyholder, would select, oh, well, I'll go to XYZ body shop. Where do you see the most power coming out of your system with a relationship that's set up like that, which is different to your marketplace in America and Canada, where you're basically trying to win the customer from that relationship experience?
I would say use the current environment to your advantage. Okay. So if you go to your insurance partners right now and say, hey, we actually have a touchless repair system, or we have the ability to digitally manage this customer more effectively than others have the capability for, I think that would be a huge leverage point. What we're seeing in the US is we have 8 carriers right now that if they have a touchless system, if they have the Body Shop Booster capabilities, they will be referred over the other shops in the marketplace. So make that your strategic or tactical advantage, that look at, we can deal with your customers in a safer, faster, more efficient manner. And I think that will help you position yourself with the carriers in that fashion, where they're like, look, we got 3 shops in the area. However, I've got one shop that can really help you accelerate this repair and do it right from your driveway, so you don't have to have the chance of being exposed to the coronavirus in the shop, that kind of a thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think also being able to filter that work before the customer gets to your shop, even though you've
Yes.
been allocated a job. So how can you help the customer and save them time, save yourself time, save your processing time? It's like if we've got 6 driving jobs arriving every day at the shop, and we know that they've been allocated and they're drivables. Wouldn't it be good to know, to have viewed all of those 6 driving jobs beforehand, done your preliminary work on it, done your preliminary estimate, even possibly have preliminary ordered some parts on that before they arrive? So there's many different benefits that this type of technology can bring. But what I truly loved about Ryan's technology when I first saw it was the fact that it walked the customer through how to take the photos, how to take
Yeah.
photo of the bin number, etc. So it was, instead of what we saw there with that beautiful peach that we had that looked like it had been bruised in transport, where the customer is then getting stepped through it. But your platform at the back end, that's so powerful, that is what I see as another value add, because the platform at the back end is helping the business stay accountable to meet the key performance indicators that the work provider might set. And that
Yeah.
might be, make sure you're in contact with a customer within 2 hours of getting an allocation. Make sure you've got an estimate done on this within 1 day. Make sure you've got an estimate done and submitted on a towing job within 48 hours, etc. So the back end technology can help set that up to say, well, who's following this through? Who's accountable to it? Let's make sure that we keep on top of those KPIs. And then from
Totally.
there, after the car goes, how do we, I feel there's a huge opportunity through all of this in the industry to sometimes there's a complacency mindset, I call it, that can creep in. So has there ever been a better time in the world to look at where your complacency mindset is at and say, where do I have to reinvent myself? Where do I have to look for innovation? Where do I, and there are opportunities that are just opening up, because there's inevitable that it's going to ramp up again. We know that.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
how are we setting ourselves up to become more efficient and more effective? And then how are we setting ourselves up to say, well, we're in alignment with what an OEM is looking for out of a body shop moving forward? Because my opinion is they're going to have a lot more involvement over the next coming years, especially
That's the
with,
intent.
yeah.
They got some big pieces moving. They got a lot of big pieces moving, and telematics is coming quicker than most realize. So tying in with the OEMs is definitely the right long-term play. So absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So please carry on.
Oh, okay. So yeah, one of the things that we wanted to do was take all of this technology and because of COVID-19, we decided to take our most powerful technology, the artificial intelligence, everything you see here from the texting and the email and the ringless voicemail and the photo estimating, even things like the AI for answering the phones and the scheduling tools, all of these different things, we wanted to bolt it into a package for you guys so that would make it really simple and easy for you to deploy, especially in this environment. One of the things we thought is like, what can we do to help these guys be more successful? So we decided to assign coaches to shops that get going with us. We actually assign coaches who will actually help you set this stuff up and start utilizing it internally, make it really simple to get going. And you can see why a lot of shops normally, our normal package price for the AI and everything that you've seen today, we normally charge a $2,500 sign up fee for like programming and then $795 a month. But talking with Gavin, we're like, hey, you know what can we do to help Australians right now? And because you're on this webinar with Gavin, what we decided to do is put together a COVID-19 special offer. So you get all of our best technology and you pay a $995 development fee, one-time development fee, and then it's $347 per month. And that's going to stay at that same rate for minimum of 2 years. So we won't increase the price. And the way we set it up, guys, is no contract. So if you're not getting value out of this, I expect you to cancel. It keeps my team sharp. It keeps you utilizing the product. And the great news for us is we have a very, very low churn rate because shops get the value and very quickly they're like, wow, this is saving me a lot of time, money, and effort and bringing more leads in. So if this is something that you would like to take advantage of, during COVID-19, we're only going to let this package be available for a short while, but you can go to bodyshopbooster.com.au. So these prices are all in Australian prices to help out the market. Gavin's like, we need to put something compelling together that's going to help shops, help them position themselves, and help them get through this storm. So that's been a big initiative and push of ours. So if that's something that interests you, please feel free to help yourself. In kind of a closing note, I wanted to share this with you. This is Rupert Murdoch, the billionaire. And he says, look, the world is changing very fast. Big will not beat small anymore. It will be the fast beating the slow. And we're seeing this come true right now. It's going to be the quick. The ones that make decisive, quick decisions are the ones that are going to bounce back from this. Okay, those are the ones that are going to really be able to make an impact on their marketplace. And so the faster you make decisive executive decisions, the faster you turn your battleship to our new reality, because that's what we're dealing with here, isn't it? The reality has changed. And so the quicker you can adapt to that, the better off shops will be. So really, Gavin, that's kind of it from my end of it. I hope shops found that helpful. And again, if you want to take advantage of that, just go to bodyshopbooster.com.au and we'll be able to help you out, get signed up there. So.
Yeah, well, thanks, Ryan. There's been some really awesome information that's come through on that. And we've got a couple of questions that have come up there. Can you just see those open questions at your end there? And,
let me try. I'm gonna get click happy for a second here. Doesn't seem to be opening.
Maybe g'day, Darren yeah. Templeton. Hello, Darren, over there in WA.
I know that.
Ryan's
I know that,
because
man.
he's using Ryan's technology. So thanks for joining, Darren. That's awesome to get you on board. So,
yeah.
So he's just saying, currently using BSB over here, looking to expand and promote further and take advantage on opportunities through the CV-19 situation. We've done pamphlet drops, etc., but the AI sounds fantastic. Are we currently set up? That's the first part of the question. How does BSB integrate with Planning Plus, if at all, due to the fact they currently use an alternate body shop management system? So I'll just let you answer that part on the AI.
So on the front end, yeah, Daryl, and thank you, Darren. Thanks for being a customer, man. I think about you quite often. I know you're moving and shaking over there, so that's my man. And yeah, so as far as it goes, we will upgrade you for being on this webinar. You will get access to the AI and all those pieces as an extension of this webinar. So first of all, thanks for being a customer, and yes, we will give you all the horsepower we can to help you through this time. So the AI will be available to you. After this call, just pop me off an email and I'll get our team to upgrade everything for you and get you rolling. So absolutely.
Awesome. And they're on the BSB integration with Planning Plus, not at this stage, but there's lots happening on the Planning Plus world of technology and innovation, I can tell you now. So we'll keep you informed on that one there. And I've got another question come through. is the pricing in AU dollars? Yes, we have the pricing in AU dollars. And I've got a few Kiwis online at the moment as well. So we're not going to forget our Kiwis over there in the long white cloud, and they're in total lockdown, whereas at least we're a little bit open to working here. So, yeah. And another question just comes through. How long would it take to set up Body Shop Booster?
Good question. Right now we are accelerating. It used to take 2 weeks because of the sheer demand. We've actually brought in a bunch of extra development teams, so we can get you set up in about 4 to 5 days is what we need to get you set up. And then our development team will pass it off to the coaches, who will then help you get it implemented. So plan on about from the time you sign up to the time you're actually able to start rolling with it, about 1 week would be acceptable. Yeah.
Awesome. So it's really interesting, and I've got a lot out today, so thank you, Ryan, and I hope that everyone else has. So I can see a raise of hands there. If you've got something from today, please let us know. That would be awesome. It lets us know we're on the right track with trying to get information out to people in this current environment. But even more than that, it's about looking at it and saying, well, okay, let me do all this work now and get me geared up for the future. That's the key to it. And let me be that innovator. Let me be that one that's a step ahead of the competitors and always looking to innovate and move to that next level. So please consider it from that perspective as well. That's really important. And another question that's come in saying, how do we receive training?
Yeah, so training is done much like what you're seeing on a Zoom meeting. You can get on training webinars with our coaches, and then you also get one-on-one digital training through like a Zoom environment, like what you're on right now, where they can share their screen, see your screen, help you guys get things set up. So it'll be our coaches, and Gavin's team is going to start getting spooled up and helping as well over time. So if you can't understand my Canadian accent or my American coaches or Canadian coaches, we've got Gavin's team is spooling up to help us as well. So
awesome stuff. So, well, everyone, that pretty much rounds out. We're just spot on an hour, which is fantastic. We've got right into the harder stuff. And thanks very much, Ryan, for putting that presentation together. It's always good when you get a presenter that's got his house in order, as we call it, and just goes through the flow. And yeah, there's some differences between what we do in different countries, but in all reality, the outcome is the same. We want to be able to look after the customer and then follow up the customer, which is an area within the Southern Hemisphere that I feel could greatly be improved in, move the complacency mindset and say, well, how are we following them up in the future, and how can we have AI working for us a little bit better in the future as well? And winning over these customers to make sure we keep them as customers for life.
That's it.
Tough environment that, as we know, the cost of new acquisition is much more than keeping the customers, and moving from that transactional sale to a more relational sale.
Yes.
So when a transactional sales process goes on, it becomes very mundane and it's very impersonal. But when you can shift your mindset and move into that relational sales perspective, that becomes a much closer knit. You become sort of part of a family with other people. So that's critical as well. Another learning that we can take from this. But if there's no more questions coming through, thanks very much for everyone for attending. We've had some great attendances on board. And if you have any questions, please contact myself or Ryan, and we'll answer those for you. And we'll take a recording of this and fire it off to people as well. And if that's about it, we'll shut the thing down. And thank you, Ryan. You can go off, and nearly bedtime now?
That's it. That sounds good. Well, I appreciate everybody being on this thing with me, and we sure think about you guys over there. And do know that we expect a pent-up demand. We expect to see, as people come out of this thing, we do expect things to bounce back. And those shops that are prepared to take advantage of that are going to be the ones that accelerate through this. So anything that we can do from our end to help you, whether you're a customer of Body Shop Booster, or even if you're not, we are always here to offer advice, and anything that we can do to help our friends across the pond, we're more than happy to do it. So
awesome stuff. Okay, we'll sign out and close off the webinar. And thanks everyone for your attendance today. And thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Gavin. Appreciate you putting this on.
No problem at all. Thanks very much. Bye for now, everyone.